Boker Tov and Shabbat Shalom. It's my veraja to be with you again in this video, sharing with you a new study, a new part of the study of the last days. I have been telling you it's a veraja for me to be sharing this information, these studies with you. I really enjoy doing this video, and actually I was expecting to upload this new part. You know, it's been a long 2 weeks without uploading new material. I want to thank you, all of you that are keeping me in your prayers. It's been two stressful weeks at work, so please keep me in your prayers, because in order to have enough time to keep studying the Word of YaHuWaH and keep sharing this light with you. As have been telling you, all of us that we believe in Yahushua and have his emunah, his testimony in our heart, we understand that the only source of truth is the word of YaHuWaH, this one, because in his word we find everything we need in order to make progress on his way, in his path. So I'm not gonna stop telling you that I'm encouraging you that you need to study by yourself. You need to use all the inputs, including the ones that I'm sharing with you in these studies, but taking directly from the Word of YaHuWaH, using the principles that I have been sharing with you, with the 2 and 3 witnesses, in order to establish any matter, any truth. And all the principles that I have been sharing with you throughout all the studies so far, to look for and search for the truth in the word of YaHuWaH. And also in prayer, ask our YaHuWaH to guide you in the truth through the Ruach HaKodesh. So again, thank you for your support, thank you for your prayers. And today I want to share with you the next part on the study of the last days. You know, so far we already covered the important prophecy of our Mashiach, Yahushua, the one that he was telling the Talmidim in the Mount of Olives regarding the last days. We saw in details all the events, all the signs that Yahushua was sharing with the Talmidim, and also sharing with us today. That's going to happen on the last days. And keep in mind that the overall purpose, objective of this study is to create a timeline in order to understand the chronology, the sequence of events, and also understand what are the signs that are going to help us to understand what's the events that are going to happen and when it's going to happen. Okay, we are not going in deeper details about the meaning of each one of the events, each one of the prophecies. My expectation that maybe after creating part of the timeline, we are gonna go in some of the details of the prophecies, but I think it's important first to understand the sequence of events in order to be prepared, in order to be protected and not to be deceived, in order to understand the signs of those events. So, as I said, we already covered the prophecies at the Mount of Olives with all the details, all the sequence, all the signs that Yahushua was telling us in that prophecy. And also, we already covered the chapter 6 of the Sefer Hason. This is the book of Revelation, where we also saw an important things that this revelation on this book is the revelation of Yahushua that he received from YaHuWaH Elohim, our Father. So is Yahushua the witness of the prophecy, the testimony of the prophecy is Yahushua himself, the spirit of the prophecy is Yahushua himself. So he's the one, the only one that he can help us to understand the book of Revelation. So as we saw, we were reviewing the seals, the 7 seals, and we saw interestingly that at the same time, at the same moment that Yahushua is opening the seals in the Shemaim, some events are happening on the earth. And we saw that in that part of the study, and how YaHuWaH, through the prophecy at the Mount of Olives, he was giving us the key in order to understand the seals. And we saw this in the timeline of on the last part of the study. So today what I want to share with you is basically we are going to start a series of parts on this study regarding the analysis of the Great Distress. So basically this is going to be the part number 1 of the analysis of the Great Distress. And why I want to do that, because you saw in the timeline that we complete in the last part I was sharing with you. We already checked the main events in the great timeline of the prophecies. Okay, so now I want to start going in deeper details within that timeline, and that's why it's so important to understand the Great Distress. You will see, because this will help us to understand the detail or the little details on what's going to happen very soon, in my belief. So, like always, I invite you to send me an email to light2everynation@gmail.com. In case you have any doubt, if something is not clear on this part that we are gonna share this morning, you are always welcome to send the emails. You know, I told you at the beginning, it has been a 2 stressful week and time-demanding weeks at work. So it's taking me more time to answer the emails, but believe me, I'm doing the best effort in order to answer your questions. So be patient, you will receive my answer. So in case you have any doubt, just send me an email. I will do my best to answer you as soon as possible. So no more preamble, and let's start. Let me share the screen with you. And here we go. So we are gonna share today the part number 5. This is the analysis of the Great Distress, the part number 1. And we are going to analyze the words of Mashiach in the Besorah. This is in the first 4 books of the Brit Hadashah, the so-called, or the so wrong called, New Testament. So let's start. And what we are going to review mainly is in the book of Matityahu. This is something that we already reviewed in the previous part of the study, but now we are gonna do a kind of zoom in on especially on the verses that he's talking us about the Great Distress. So we are gonna read the book of Matityahu. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, from the verse 9 to the verse 26. Book of Matityahu, Matthew, chapter 24. Verse 9 to 26. So it says the following: then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you. So first thing that YaHuWaH is telling us here is that he's talking about tribulation, he's talking about persecution, he's talking about death. Okay, so, and he's talking, keep in mind, he's talking to the Talmidim. So he's talking to his people, he's talking to the Kehillah, to the church, to the assembly, he's talking to Israel. Okay, so let's continue. Let's repeat it again. Then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you, and you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. You know, I was sharing in a previous videos, I think, that based on my studies on the scriptures, I believe that this situation that YaHuWaH is saying that we are going to be hated by all nations for his name's sake is directly related to the truth, is directly related to the word, the devar of YaHuWaH. So we are seeing lately that a strong division, even in the Torah believers, in the believers in general, about if we read directly, literally, what is written in the word of YaHuWaH, or if we believe half away what is written in the word, in the scriptures. So it's my belief that, and actually why and Yahushua is saying, it's written in the word of YaHuWaH, that Yahushua himself, he said that he was hated because revealing the truth. So it's going to be exactly the same for us, that we're going to be hated because believing darkly the truth of YaHuWaH. That's my belief, and actually I think we have strong support in the word of YaHuWaH to believe so. So let's continue in the verse 10. And then many shall stumble, and they shall deliver up one another, and shall hate one another. And this is one important thing, because in other places, Yahushua himself is telling us that even people from our family, people from our relatives, people very close to us are gonna be persecuting us. So, and actually, I think I shared this in one of the virtual house church when I had the chance to join. That such a division, the only thing that can happen, even a division internally in the families, is because believing in the truth of YaHuWaH. Okay, so important things that it's saying Yahushua here, that then many shall stumble. So stumble of what? From the truth. They're going to be led astray. And let's continue, because even Yahushua is telling us in the same text that this is what is going to happen. So let's continue in the verse 11. And many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. And because of the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. And we know that lawlessness is coming from the Greek word anomia. I have a study that I hope to share with you soon, in a time soon. And this word anomia and this word lawlessness is directly related to breaking the law or not having a law. And actually, what we know, that the important law that we see as a revelation in the entire word of YaHuWaH is talking about the law of Elohim, the law of YaHuWaH, and his law, the right word to use for law, is the Torah. And the Torah has different components, like the Hukim, this is our laws, the Mishpatim, the right rulings, the Edut, that are the testimonies, and the Mitzvot, that are the commandments. So it's basically breaking the Torah, not following the Torah, that this is going to increase. We already seeing this in our days, that the increase in the breaking Torah, not following Torah. But even Yahushua is saying that this is going to increase even more. And because of this, the love of many shall become cold. So, not following Torah, breaking the Torah, not following the word of YaHuWaH, not following his way, is basically not following his truth. And that's why not following his truth is going to cause such a division that even Yahushua is telling us in this text. So let's continue, and that's why it's important. Again, I'm going to be tired to repeating this to you. We need to find the truth in the Devar of YaHuWaH. We need to let him guide us. We need to let him lead us through the Ruach HaKodesh. And the Ruach is going to remind us the words of Yahushua. He's going to remind us, and it is so amazing how the Ruach is working within us. That time to time, he's bringing in our mind, in our hearts, texts in the scriptures, and sometimes even not remember the place where it is, but just revealing in our hearts, in our minds, the word of YaHuWaH in the time that we need it. So that's the way that the Ruach is revealing the truth, the Devar of YaHuWaH within us. So let's continue. Verse 13. But he who shall have endured to the end shall be saved. And this is something that we need to keep always in mind, especially during this period of the Great Tribulation. Yahushua is telling us that everyone that is enduring until the end shall be saved. because he's telling us in the previous text that during this period, many people will be led astray, and many people shall stumble because of the increase of the lawlessness. So that's why we need to keep the emunah of Yahushua in our heart, because that's the only way to keep going no matter what's going on around us. It's the same thing that the entire journey, the entire path, this entire walk that we are doing is difficult. It's a hard-pressed path. So it's important that all the experience that we are receiving so far, all the teaching that we are receiving so far, all the understanding that we are receiving so far in our experience, in our studies, will help us to endure till the end. Okay? Let's continue. 14. And this good news of the reign shall be proclaimed in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end shall come. So we know that the good news and the fulfillment of this prophecy is going to happen during the tribulation. And we will see this in later parts of this study, how this is going to happen. Okay? And let's continue. 15. So, and this is an important point, because we are starting to see specific details that Yahushua is sharing with us about the Great Tribulation. So when you see the abomination that lays waste, or called by most of the people abomination of desolation. So when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, set up in the set apart place. He who reads, let him understand. So Yahushua is telling us that something is going to be set up. The abomination of desolation, the abomination that lays waste, is going to be set up, and it's going to be set up in a specific place. What place? The set apart place. And when we're talking about the set apart place, we are talking about the place of the temple, the place of the Beit HaMikdash, the Hechal, the temple of YaHuWaH. So, and the important things that Yahushua is telling us here, and he's pointing to the prophecies of Daniel. So in the next part of the study, in the part number 6, we will analyze the words of Daniel, because this is a kind of puzzle. So we need to start looking for clues and looking for witnesses in different parts of the Bar of YaHuWaH in order to receive the entire light and see the entire picture of the prophecies. So this is an important clue that Yahushua is telling us about the prophecies of Daniel. So important that we need to understand the abomination of the desolation that is going to be set up in the set apart place. Let's continue in the verse 16. Then let those who are in YaHuWaH flee to the mountains. So he's telling specifically for the people that are living in YaHuWaH, and this is in the promised land, in the land of Israel, that they need to flee to the mountains. But let's continue, because in my understanding, that is not only for the people that is in Israel. He is talking as well for everybody of us. And we need to understand it in this way, every time that a disaster is coming, a terrorist attack or a natural disaster is coming, the worst thing that is happening is in the cities. Okay? In the cities is when we see all the problems, all the riots, all the issues with the people. People start to put violent, and it's a very dangerous place to be. It's in the cities. So that's why, if we think that's what's going to happen during the Great Tribulation, a huge persecution for the believers, those ones that are keeping the truth, the testimony of Yahushua, and the commandments, the mitzvot of YaHuWaH, the worst place to be is going to be in the cities. It's going to be the most complex place to be. So that's why I think this is specifically in this text talking about the people living in the land of Israel, but it's also, as we are going to see now, talking to everyone. Okay? So it says in the verse 17, let him who is on the housetop not come down to take whatever out of his house. So it's basically not to put attention, not to put our eyes on the material things, in our goods, in our assets. It's just to understand the signs, and flee. 18. And let him who is in the field not turn back to get his garments. It's exactly the same. If somebody is out of the city, don't go back. Stay there. And why is that? Let's continue in the 19. And woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing children in those days. And pray that your flight, he's talking about flight, to go out, does not take place in winter or on the Shabbat. Because we know in the Shabbat it's a special day. We are staying in our homes. And in winter, because in winter is quite complicated, because the climate and the weather is not easy to flee. Okay? And why is the reason of all of that? All of this is YaHuWaH himself, he's telling us in the verse 21, for then there shall be great distress. And listen to this because it's important to understand what is following. Such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. So YaHuWaH is giving us all this advice that we need to flee, especially the people living in the land of Israel. They need to flee to the mountains, as happened during the time of the Maccabees. If you read the book of Maccabees, that was exactly what they were doing, going out to the mountains, just protecting themselves in the mountains. That was the people living in the land of Israel, in the land of YaHuWaH. But also he's talking to us, as I already explained to you, because it's going to be such a great distress. And the important thing here is that YaHuWaH himself is telling us that this is going to be a unique event on history. This event has not happened in the past, and it's not going to happen something similar in the future. It's just one unique event. And why is this so important? Because we will find, and I will share with you in this study as well, at least two more witnesses in the Devar of YaHuWaH that is talking about a great persecution. And we need to understand that if YaHuWaH here in Matityahu is telling us that this is going to be just one unique event in history, if we find another place in the Tanakh, in the Torah, in the Brit Hadashah, in the Devar of YaHuWaH, that is talking about the same, that is going to be a unique event, is because the word of YaHuWaH is telling us that these two events are one and the same. Okay, that's why it's so important to understand what YaHuWaH is telling us, that this is going to be a unique event on history. Okay, let's continue. And if those days were not shortened, no flesh would be saved. It's going to be such persecution, so complicated. But for the sake of the chosen one, and let me stop for a while, because it's my understanding that when YaHuWaH is telling us that no flesh would be saved, he's talking not only about the persecution and killing of the believers during that period, he's also talking about the people that is going to be led astray. Because if those people are not refined, they're going to receive the mark of the beast. And we know that by receiving the mark of the beast, they are not salvation. So this is not only talking about the persecution, it's also talking for the people about the no flesh that will be saved. It's talking for the people that are going to be led astray during that period. Let's continue. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those days shall be shortened. And this is an important point, and I already mentioned it, I think, in the part number 3 of this study, when we were analyzing completely the book of Matityahu, the chapter 24, that YaHuWaH himself is telling us that during this period, the chosen one are going to be present on earth. You know, I know that there are a lot of teachings, a lot of studies about the pre-tribulation rapture, or the mid-tribulation rapture, or the post-tribulation rapture, and there is a lot of people believing that on the pre-tribulation rapture. But, you know, believing the pre-tribulation rapture is totally opposite to what YaHuWaH is telling us here in the book of Matityahu about what's going to happen during the Great Tribulation, because it's plain text here. It's quite clear that YaHuWaH is telling us that because of the chosen one, the dates of the Great Tribulation are going to be shortened. It's because the chosen ones are going to be present, the believers are going to be present during the Great Tribulation. That's the only explanation. Is actually, we don't need to even go deeper on the analysis of this, because it's quite clear and a plain sight for us to see it. Let's continue in the verse 23. If anyone then says to you, look, here is the Messiah, the Mashiach, or there, do not believe, for false messiahs and false Nevi'im, false prophets, shall arise, and they shall show great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, whom? Even the chosen ones. So YaHuWaH again is telling us what's going to happen during that period. First, he's saying, flee to the mountains, go out of the city, though if you are in the countryside and you are in the field, don't go back to your house, don't go back to the city. He's telling us to hide ourselves, and we talk about this somehow in the part number 2 of the study, part number 1 and 2, if I'm not wrong. So he's talking that during this period that we need to be there for a specific period of time, because during this period false messiahs and false prophets are gonna arise, and they're gonna start showing great signs. And what's the purpose? Even to lead all the people astray, but even they're gonna try to lead astray the chosen one. So again, YaHuWaH is telling us, and he is confirming, that the chosen one are going to be present during the Great Tribulation, the Great Distress period. And that's why he's telling us again in the verse 25 what we need to do when we hear about these great signs and what these false messiahs and false Nevi'im are doing. This is what YaHuWaH is telling us what to do in the verse 25. See, I have forewarned you. So if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, the Mashiach is in the desert, do not go out. Or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe. So it's quite clear what YaHuWaH is saying. And actually we already reviewed in the part number 3 of this study that if we see what is next in the verse 27, I think, YaHuWaH is telling us that he's going to provide us a sign for his coming. And he's going to come back only after the Great Tribulation, not during the Great Tribulation. He's quite clear on the sequence of events. So that's why, if we are part of the Great Tribulation, as YaHuWaH is telling us and is teaching us in the word of YaHuWaH, this is not my words, I'm just reading the scripture. We don't have to believe when we hear that the Messiah is coming, that the prophets are coming, because this is a lie. We need to wait for the sequence of events. And that's why I felt in my heart a long time ago to do this study, because we need to understand the sequence of events. We need to understand the words of the prophecies, just to understand what to do. Okay? So we find a lot of keys over here. We find a lot of information. We find a lot of advice from YaHuWaH about what's going to happen and about what we need to do during this period. And I want to share with you in another place in the book of Lucas, because in order to reinforce the idea that this is not only for the people of YaHuWaH, this is for everyone, that we need the best we can do when we see the signs is not to be on the cities. And this is in the book of Lucas. This is the book of Luke, chapter 17, verse 31 to 33. Somehow YaHuWaH is referring, this is in the writings of Lucas, to the same period of time. And it's important the way that Lucas is sharing with us this information, because he's giving us additional things. So it says the following: in that day, he who shall be on the top in the housetop, and his goods in the house, let him not come down to take them away. So he's talking about not to go back to recover something. We don't need to put our treasures in the things of this world. We need to put our treasure needs to be YaHuWaH and His Malchut. So that's why when we see all the signs, we need to flee. Let's continue. And likewise, the one who is in the field, let him not turn back. And what's the important key that he's delivering? Lucas is giving us here as an additional information is in the verse 32 and 33. He says, remember the wife of Lot. Whoever seeks to save his life shall lose it, and whoever loses his life shall preserve it. So I think most of us knows the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. This is Sodom and Gomorrah. And we know the story of the wife of Lot. What happened when they were fleeing? Fleeing, I think. Sorry for my English. From the city, the wife of Lot decided to turn back and see what was going on. That was revelation. What it was on her heart. So that's why Lucas in this place is telling us in the words of Yahushua that we need to remember the wife of Lot, because at the moment of our flee, we don't need to turn back. Turn back to what? To our life. That's why in the verse 33 is quite clear. Whoever seeks to save his life shall lose it. To save his life. What life? The life of this world. Every time that we put our interest in this life, this system, this world is our treasure, we are gonna make this mistake. We're gonna do exactly the same mistake of the wife of Lot. Try to save our life, our way, the ways of life of this system, of the ways of life of this world. That's why the word of YaHuWaH is so clear that we are in the world, but we are not of the world. Everyone that becomes friends of the world becomes enemy of Elohim, because there are two different and two opposite ways of life. So that's why if we try during this period, during the Great Tribulation, to save our ways of life, to keep living in the same way that the system is pushing us to live, we are going to lose our life. And that's why in the second half of this text, in the verse 33, Yahushua is saying, and whoever loses his life shall preserve it. Because this is exactly what we saw in Matthew 24. Because during this period, we see that Yahushua said that they shall deliver you. They are going to deliver us up to affliction and kill us. That's what Yahushua is telling us. So many people are going to lose their life. And why they are going to lose their life? Because they are going to endure until the end, no matter that we need to go through death. As many of the patriarchs, many of the Nevi'im, the prophets, or many of the disciples went through. So, and also we saw in the part number 4 of the study, when Yahushua is in the Lamb is opening the 5th seal, is that he's telling us that the number of believers are going to die during this period, because a number needs to be completed. So that's why those people that decide and prefer to lose life in order to keep the word and the truth of YaHuWaH in his heart and not to let astray, those are the ones that are going to preserve the real life, the eternal life that Yahushua has promises us. Okay? So we have seen a lot of keys, a lot of information, so I want to do a summary here. So as always, I have been sharing with you specific keys that are gonna helping us in order to open the understanding. So the first one is the key 5.1 is the sign. And the sign is going to be the abomination that lays waste, or the abomination of desolation. We don't know yet. I'm intent to share with you in one moment the studies about the abomination of desolation. Last night I had the chance to join the virtual house church, and I was sharing some of my opinions about what could be the abomination of desolation. But I will include as part of this series and a specific study of this. But we need to understand this is going to be a sign, something that we will see, okay? And since it's something that we will see, YaHuWaH is also telling us that where this is going to happen, where we need to look for this sign, and this is going to be in the set apart place, in the place of the mount of the temple. So this sign is going to appear at the Temple Mount, and we will talk in this study a little bit about this. Okay, so the important here is that we must pay attention to what's happening there. This is part of YaHuWaH telling us that we need to watch at all times. We need to put special attention what's happening on Jerusalem, what's happening specifically on the Temple Mount, because it's in that place where the abomination of desolation is going to be set up. So we need to keep watching, we need to keep following the news, what's happening on that place, in order to be prepared when this sign is going to appear. Okay? After that, he's telling us an important thing, that we need to flee. Without nothing but the clothes in our bags, and we have to forget, we don't need to be worried about getting back for any of our goods. And as I have been telling you, we need to flee from the cities. We have the example of the wife of Lot, as we discussed already. Okay, so this is what YaHuWaH is telling us. When we see the sign, we need to flee. The key number 5.2 is that YaHuWaH is telling us a distress such as has not been in the human history. It's a unique event on history. Nothing like this happened in the past. Nothing like this is going to happen in the future. So, as it's written over there, let me share with you what is in the book of YaHuWaH. This is the book of Jeremiah. Sefer YaHuWaH, book of Jeremiah, chapter 30. Verse 5 and 7, and this is talking about the Jacob's trouble. And you know, I have heard so many debates and teachings about this, that most of the people are talking that this is related to the physical of the blood descendant of the Israel, who is talking about the modern state of Israel and not of the church. You know, every time, and as I was sharing with you the part number 1 of this study, every time that we use our own ideas and we put our private understanding, we go astray. We need to find the truth in the word of YaHuWaH. So let me read it for you. This is in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 5 to 7, and it says the following: For this is what YaHuWaH said. We have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask now and see if a man is given birth. And this is important. It's talking about birth, giving birth. And we saw as part of the keys in this study that giving birth, or a woman with labor pain, is part of one of the keys for the understanding. So we see it here as well. Let me repeat it again. Ask now and see if a man is given birth. Why do I see every man with his hands on his loins like a woman in labor? Again, woman in labor, this is also part of the keys. And all faces turn pale? Oh, for great is that day. There is none like it. Again, YaHuWaH through Yirmiyahu is saying the following. Let me repeat it in the verse 7. Oh, for great is that day. There is none like it. It is the time of Jacob's, or Jacob's, distress, but he shall be saved out of it. We see in the words of Yirmiyahu, in the writings of Yirmiyahu. This is the word of YaHuWaH. YaHuWaH speaking through Yirmiyahu, saying that there is none other day like this one. This is going to be a great day because it's the time of Jacob's distress. None other day like this one. So it's exactly the same wording, it's exactly the same key that Yahushua is giving us about the great distress in his words in Matthew 24. A unique event of history. So we cannot have two unique events of history. If we see that here in Yirmiyahu and we see that in Matthew, YaHuWaH is talking about the same event. So the great distress that Yahushua is talking about is exactly the same that Jacob distress, just reading the Devar of YaHuWaH. Okay? So let's continue. The key 5.3 is that Yahushua is giving a promise, the promise of deliverance, of salvation for those who endures until the end. And this is important to remember because we will see it repeated in other places in the Devar of YaHuWaH. And I think we're going to review it as part of the next study, the part number 6, that we are going to see. We will continue with the analysis of the great distress. The important thing that I want to repeat again, because this is important aspect that we need to understand, that so far in everything that I have been sharing with you till this moment, in this series of studies about the last days, that the Scripture is teaching us that the chosen ones, the believers, will be present during all this period. We reviewed in the verse 22 and the verse 24 in Matthew chapter 24, as we read it in the previous slide, that the chosen one, in the words of Yahushua, and what we have been seeing so far in the different part of this study, are going to be present on earth during all this period. This is not my invention, it's not my conceived idea, it's just reading the Devar of YaHuWaH. I know that maybe you can have doubts about, okay, what about the rapture? What's happening with the promise of protection? This is something for sure. The rapture exists. The only thing we need to understand, what is the rapture? What is the purpose for the rapture? And when it's going to happen? This is something that we will cover during this study. And also, we will cover about what about the promise of protection. We will see it as well as part of this study. So don't get confused. The Scripture is quite clear that YaHuWaH is promising protection. He's promising that he's going to take us in one moment as part of a rapture, if we can call it like that. But also, we need to understand that the Scripture is quite clear that everyone, all the chosen ones, all the believers are going to be on earth and are going to be part of the Great Tribulation. Okay, so let's move on and let's continue with the timeline. You know, I like to put it visually because it's much easier to understand. And this is the entire purpose of this study. So this was the last timeline, or the last picture of the timeline that we completed in the part number 4 of this series, where we analyzed, as I told you, everything that is happening on the earth based on what we saw in the prophecy of Yahushua, and also everything that's going to happen at the same time in parallel on the Shemaim, when the Lamb is opening the seals, and we saw all the different events and the sequence of all those events, and also some of the signs of those events. So based on what we saw, we covered in this part of the study, we are focusing ourselves in this part of the great distress. And as I was sharing with you, we have a clear information and confirmation from the Devar of YaHuWaH that the great distress is exactly the same of the time of Jacob's distress. So we saw that what is going to trigger the Great Tribulation is the abomination that lays waste, set up in the Har Moriah. The Har Moriah is the Mount Moriah, is the Temple Mount, is the current Temple Mount, okay? And this is what is written in the YaHuWaH chapter 15. So when we see, and this is going to be one of the signs, when we see the abomination of that lays waste, the abomination of desolation, YaHuWaH is telling us that we need to flee. We need to flee because the great distress is coming. Okay? So this is the kickoff of the Great Tribulation. This is the sign that we're going to see here on earth. And it's in this moment that YaHuWaH is telling us that we need to flee because a great distress is coming. Okay? Important to see this is the sequence. Abomination, we need to flee, the great distress is coming. Okay? And also something that I want to share with you, and I didn't read it, this is also in the chapter Lucas in chapter 17. It's the book of Luke, chapter 17, verse 20. This is also another clue, another sign that YaHuWaH is giving us. And it says the following. Sorry, I think I have a mistake here. Let me see. Because the verse 20 says the following, I have been asking for the Pharisees where the reign of Elohim will come. No, it's not this verse. Okay, let me continue with the rest. I will share with you what it is, because there is an important passage in the debate of YaHuWaH in the verse of Lucas that is YaHuWaH is telling us that we will see the armies surrounding Jerusalem, and this is also part of the signs that we will see, because he's telling us specifically that when we see Jerusalem surrounded by the armies, is because the abomination of lays waste is coming. So this is a very important information that we need to understand. Actually, it's here. I found it. Sorry, it's not in the chapter 17. It's in the chapter 21. You know, this is recording live, so sorry for the mistakes, but it's important to correct this one. So this is in the chapter 21, verse 20. Actually, let me read for you the 19 and the 20. It says the following. Possess your life. Again, this is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 19 and 20. It says the following. Possess your lives by your endurance. And when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its laying waste is near. So basically, YaHuWaH is talking about also in this part of Lucas about the great distress. And he's talking and telling us that when we see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, it's because the abomination of lays waste is coming very soon. And this is also another sign that it will help us to understand everything and what's the sequence of everything, how this is going to happen. Okay, so this is basically the timeline that we have so far. Important to understand the signs, important to understand the sequence, important to understand that we will be part of the great distress. So regarding the what's going on in our time, you know, I told you that we need to see, we need to watch, we need to understand, and we need to follow, pay attention what's going on in the Temple Mount. So here I have some old news and some updated news that I want to share with you. So this is the Temple Mount, okay? This is the place of so much dispute between Muslims and Jewish people, because Jewish people believe here is where the Temple Mount, the temple was in the past. So there's so many things happening so far. We see different news about the different terrorist attack that has happening through in Israel, especially in the last few years, and all the disputes about the Temple Mount. We see that the police, that is a strong situation happening on this way, and we see police all in the everywhere in the old city in Jerusalem, just taking care of anything that is happening. Actually, I think I saw some news that last week some people died. A person died there because of a terror attack, because of a stabbing attack. So it's important that to see what's going on. You know, there's a lot of political discussion over there about for forbidding the Jewish politician to enter the Temple Mount. You know, there is a restriction for Jewish people to pray on the Temple Mount. Actually, they can go to the Temple Mount just few days a week, but they cannot pray. And if they pray, actually, a lot of problems, a lot of issues is going on if they do that. Actually, we know that what's happening in the last few months, that the UNESCO votes to condemn Israel. That they didn't recognize Jerusalem as part of Israel, and we know that this is what the world, what is the system is pushing, not to recognize the histories, not to recognize what is written in the word of YaHuWaH. Okay. We also, and this is something that is happening, especially in the last few years, that every time that Pesach is coming, they are trying, the Orthodox Jews are trying to perform the Pesach slaughtering, the Pesach offering in the Temple Mount or close to the Temple Mount. Okay, if you are not aware about the Temple Institute, see that, because they already have a training for the Kohanim, and they already train a lot of Kohanim. And actually, this is what we see in the picture over here. A lot of people using or wearing what they call the priestly cloth. That's why they are using this, and they are praying for the people. So, you know, somehow everything is prepared in order to resume the sacrifice, the offerings, and especially during the Moedims, there is a lot of troubles because the Jewish people are trying to push for this. And also we see how so much debate and discussion was happening a few months ago about the votes on the UN, the UNESCO, about they were not recognizing any tie between the Judaism and the Temple Mount. So, you know, a lot of things going on this place, and that's why we need to put attention on what's happening. We need to put attention on what's going on during the in this place in particular, and during our time. Okay, so what I want to share with you in the next one is another picture of the Temple Mount. And you know, there is a huge debate of if this is the Temple Mount or is Antonia's fortress. I believe there is a lot of evidence to understand that this was Antonia's fortress, and the temple, the real temple, was at the south of this place. Okay, just for you to have reference, the north is to the right. Okay, and the south is to the left, to the bottom is the east, and the west to the upper part of the slide. So it's in this place that Yahushua said that something is going to happen. If the Temple Mount or the temple was at the south in the city of David, it's a place over here, it could happen that the abomination of desolation is going to be here, or it could be exactly on this so disputed place that maybe here is what's gonna happen, is where we are gonna see the abomination of lace waste. So let me look for you, because you know I forgot to check it, but there is an interesting text in the book of Ezekiel. This is the book of Yehezkel, that is talking about also about the abomination of lace waste. Let me see, I can find it fast for you. Sorry for not have it prepared, but it's important to share it. This is when it's talking about Tammuz. Let me see if I can find it in the eastward very fast. So I think this is in the chapter 8. Let me see. Why is this so important? Because Ezekiel is giving us some clue on his book about where the abomination of desolation is gonna be set up. Let me see if I can find it for you. Yes, it's in the chapter 8 of the book of Ezekiel. YaHuWaH chapter 8, verse 3. Okay? So this is the Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 3. It says the following: "And he stretched out the form of a hand, and took me by a lock of my hair. And the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the Shamayim, and brought me in visions of Elohim to Jerusalem." So we are talking about the same place. And keep in mind that Jerusalem, the Jerusalem of the time of YaHuWaH was the city of David, was the city at the south. It's not seen here in the picture, but it was the city of David at the south. Okay, so it says, "To the door of the north gate of the inner court." So he was brought by the Ruach to the gate of the north of the inner court, where the seat of the image of jealousy was, which caused jealousy. So Ezekiel is telling us that the abomination of desolation, or this image of jealousy, that is another way to say about the abomination of the desolation, was set up at the north gate. So even let's assume that this is the Temple Mount. It's based on what Ezekiel is telling us, that the abomination of desolation is going to be placed in one place over here. Okay? And actually, what I believe, if the temple, the real temple, is at the south in the city of David, in this place over here, anything that is going to happen over this place, what is so called today the Temple Mount, is the place where we will see the abomination of desolation. Okay, so regarding if this is the Temple Mount or Antonia's fortress, I want to share with you this image. You know, there is a strong evidence, and you know, there is several evidence that the Romans were building exactly the same shape and the same measures of fortress within our throughout all the empire, in the same measures, in the same size, in the same shape, a rectangle. So I think it's strong evidence that this was really not the Temple Mount. This is Antonia's fortress, and the temple was in Har Sion, in the city of David. Okay, so I put a video in the channel. It's one of the one. It's not my video. I just a video I'm sharing from other places that is talking and giving all the evidence of this. Take a look on that, because it's important to understand this. I strongly believe that even all the prophecies that is telling us that a river is going to flow through the temple. We see this in Yeshayahu. I think we saw it in Zechariah as well. We have the Gihon spring over here. This is an inexhaustible source of water. Has been always, since the creation, most probably until our days, especially on this place. So it's going to be much easier that the river is going to flow directly from the Gehal, directly from the Gihon spring over here. Okay, and actually there's no source of water, natural water in this place. So take a look on the video because it's important to keep in mind, and this should be the look maybe of what was in the time of Yahushua, the temple over here, and this was Antonius Fortress, the place where Pilate or Pilatus judged him. Okay, so something that I want to share with you just to complete this part of the study is something very interesting that I found many years ago, and it's quite important. And it's related to uniting all the religions at the mountain, the Temple Mount. And this is the picture that you will see in a specific website. Okay, this is a picture where we see different people from all kind of religions. We see Muslim, we see Christian, Catholics, we see Jewish people, we see different kind of religions coming to the Temple Mount. And you see the interesting thing here on this picture, that the people is coming from the eastern gate. What we see here at the end of the picture is that this is the Mount of Olives, and based on the prophecies, the eastern gate is open only for the Mashiach. Okay, you can read this on the book of Ezekiel, and we see all the people coming from the eastern gate. And the important thing is that we see the Dome of the Rock, and also we see the temple, Solomon temple here, in the same place. So, this is so important because this is part of the Great Deception. It's part of the abomination of desolation. And we see here what is written in this website. It said the following about the painting. It is a normal future. What we see in the picture is a normal future day on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Jews, Muslims, and Christians entering through the gate of mercy are waiting for. You can read more in the website. I will give it to you. So, what is called this website? And here you have the website. You can take a look. It's called the God's Holy Mountain, a vision of the Temple Mount. And check this one. A study project of the Interfaith Encounter Association. You see, the Temple Mount is not a problem, but the place for you, Muslim and Christian, to fulfill Zechariah's prophecy. On that day, God will be one and his name one. You see how this is being used and is being prepared in order to lead all the people astray. We need to watch at all time. We need to understand the prophecies, and we need to see what's going on in our days and how everything is prepared in order to what we see here in the picture, in this painting, to happen. So again, my invitation for you, like always, that we need to trust just in YaHuWaH. And trusting in YaHuWaH means that we need to trust on his word. We don't need to put our trust in men or women. We need to trust just in YaHuWaH and search for his word, for his truth in his word. And it's important that we understand this sequence of events. It's important that we watch at all times. It's important that we see what's going on in the world. It's important that we search for the truth and live and to live every day on the truth, because it's exactly that what YaHuWaH is asking us, is waiting for us to walk on his ways. And walking on his ways, walking on his path, is basically following his truth, what he's teaching us on his Devar. So that's the important thing, and that's the important message that I want to share with you. We need to pay attention what's happening on the world, and we need to understand everything that I was sharing with you in this part of the study about the Great Distress and what's happening on the Temple Mount. So again, don't trust my words, trust the word of YaHuWaH. Don't watch only this video, study this video, because it's important for you to do your own research, to look for yourselves for the truth, use this as an input. And as I have been inviting you all the time, if you have any doubt, just send me an email. I will do my best in order to help you out, to give you my insights, to give you my feedback, my opinion of what I understand from the body of YaHuWaH, because that's the way that the body of Mashiach needs to support each other. That's the way that we, as the body of Mashiach, as brothers and sisters, we can find the truth of YaHuWaH, because He's revealing His truth to you and to me. So, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for following this study. Thank you for your prayers. And I hope you are going to enjoy this Shabbat. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you and Shabbat Shalom.